I assume Cindy's coming back. We can start over when she gets back. Okay. All right, it's 1:30, the lights are on, we've got a quorum, so I'm going to call the meeting to order. Everybody look at the minutes. Is there a motion?
Make a motion to approve the February 5th, 2026 meeting minutes.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Cast your votes. And they're received. Cindy, you want to cover the continuance request?
We have
please?
item number 9, case number 16156 is deferred till March the 5th, 2026.
Okay, we have a motion on that one.
Make a motion to defer case number 16156 to the March 5th, 2026 meeting.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to defer. Cast your votes. And that one's continued. Any requests from anyone in the audience for a continuance on their item? I don't have a consent docket, so Cindy, you want to call the first one, please?
Item number 1, case number 16157 is an application for a special exception by Prescovie O. Anderson and Terry D. Anderson to allow home sharing at 1525 Northeast 11th Street.
Applicant? Come on up, give us your name and address, and tell us about your application.
Yes, sir. Good afternoon, Adjustment Board members. My name is Prescovie Anderson, and I'm here, and I thank you for allowing me this time. I'm here to ask permission to allow an Airbnb at 1525 Northeast 11th Street, Oklahoma City, 73117. And that's it.
All right. The applicant's the only one signed up on this one. Is there anyone who wants to address the board on this application? Okay, anything from the board?
Just a couple of things on the application, and also there was a protest written.
Yes, sir.
Did you get that?
Yes, I did.
And
I can address that if you.
Yeah, that would be great.
Yeah, in response to the opposition email, I checked the homeowners listing in the whole area, and I find no one named Damari Johnson. I know there are Johnsons next door, maybe, and it may be her daughter. I'm not sure. I don't know their names. In the past 3 years, no one has lived in this residence. Me and my wife bought this house in 2012 to possibly be residual income for when we retire. But when we did that, my daughter immediately needed somewhere to live, so we did allow my daughter to live there with my grandchildren. So, and the only other time someone lived in the house was last year in January. My wife and myself stayed there for 2 weeks. And this past November, I have a friend that works for the FBI out of DC that wanted to come home and bury his father. So I allowed him to stay in the residence for 1 week. No money was exchanged. And as far as the maintenance of the house, we had a brand new roof put on the house in 2022 and new gutters. And I myself, I cut the grass there every 2 weeks, so I don't know what that's about. And as far as the nuisance tree limbs, there are multiple trees on the property line. I have no control over how the branches grow over the property line, but when the lady addressed me with that, I did immediately go and cut branches off that covered her property, and I knew that was going to happen again, so I immediately had the tree just taken down. I have photos of the tree stump if you want to see it, but as far as anything else, I don't know. I appreciate you guys' time.
Okay, let's just look at the application a little bit then.
Yes, sir.
It's a 3-bedroom home with 2 baths.
Yes, sir.
And you're requesting 8 guests on that?
Sir?
You're requesting a maximum of 8 guests?
Yes, it can hold that, yes. A max. But
I would like to see it at 7 for a maximum with
yes, sir?
2 per bedroom, and then you have an additional bed or,
Yeah, we allow for children. We put a couple of bunk beds, so.
okay. And then I'd like to change the quiet hours from 9 PM to 8 AM. And put a maximum number of vehicles to be 4.
Yes, sir.
And no on-street parking during the quiet hours.
Yes, we don't have it.
And then the term on that would be for 1 year.
Yes, sir.
Good?
Thank you.
All right, I make a motion then to approve case number 16157 for the purpose that it meets the statutory requirements for the special exceptions with the following modifications. Maximum number of guests shall be 7, 4-car maximum, no on-street parking during quiet hours. Quiet hours are not from 9 PM to 8 AM and for a term of 1 year.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Cast your votes. You're approved.
Thank you, sir.
Item number 2, case number 16158 is an application by Melissa and Louis Santos to allow home sharing located at 2104 Northeast 15th Street.
Hi, my name is Melissa Santos, owner of 2104 Northeast 15th Street in Oklahoma City, 73117, and I'm asking for permission to do the home sharing for a short-term rental.
Okay. Nobody signed up to speak on this one. Does anyone want to address the board on this application? Okay, anything from the board?
So just a couple of questions again on the application. You have it listed as a 4-bedroom, 3-bath home.
Yes,
And it's listed online as only having 2 bedrooms.
that was a previous before remodeling it. We have permission by the city and everything has been approved.
So you added 2
Yes.
additional bedrooms
Well,
and
we-
and
yeah,
a bath?
we added it in there, yes.
Does it take, I guess, how long does it take for that to reflect on the assessor's website?
That I don't know.
I know it's showing the old listing when we purchased it first. so-
Yeah, so it was purchased in 2024
Mm-hmm.
and an extensive remodel, you can tell
Yes,
from the
yes.
photos. I would like to see it at 7 for a maximum of guests with, well, no, if it's 4-bedroom, 8 would be okay. Sorry.
It's fine.
Yeah.
Again, I'd still like to see a certification of occupancy of some sort showing that there's 4 rooms.
Yeah, we do have that certificate of occupancy as well.
Okay. All right, if you can provide that to staff on that, just to make sure.
Okay, sounds good.
I'd like to make an adjustment to the quiet hours from 9 PM to 8 AM.
Okay,
On the maximum number of vehicles to be 4.
okay,
And no on-street parking during the quiet hours. And the term would be 1 year.
perfect.
Same quiet hours, 9 PM to 8 AM?
Yep.
Okay. All right, now I'll make a motion then to approve case number 16158 for the purpose that it meets the statutory requirements for the special exceptions with the following modifications. There will be a 4-car maximum. Quiet hours are from 9 PM to 8 AM. No on-street parking during quiet hours, and applicant will provide appropriate proof that there are 4 bedrooms for the property.
You looked it up. Permit.
We're good on the permit? Okay, then disregard that last documentation requirement.
So we don't need to provide, okay,
We looked it up, it's there.
okay, thank you.
All right, yeah, thanks.
1 year.
And for a term of 1 year.
Got a motion and a second. Cast your votes. You're approved.
Thank you.
Item number 3, case number 16161 is an application by Bradley Nilsson and Rebecca Nilsson, trustees, to allow home sharing at 633 Southwest 28th Street.
Hi, I'm Rebecca Nelson, and here for application for home sharing at 633 Southwest 28th Street.
I don't have anybody signed up on this one. Does anyone want to address the board on this application? Anything from the board?
So just to go over the application, this is just for the upstairs apartment, right?
That's right, yeah.
And you own the property, the whole property, and live
I
downstairs?
own it, yes.
Do you live downstairs, or is that another?
No,
way?
I have a tenant downstairs.
Okay. The maximum number of guests would just be 2.
Yes,
I'm gonna add quiet hours from 9 PM to 8 AM.
sure.
And I'm just gonna say a maximum number of vehicles to be 2, which I know there's,
I think probably 1 would be fine, but yeah, that 2 is fine.
okay. And the term would be 1 year.
Okay.
Good. All right, I'll make a motion then to approve case number 16161 for the purpose that it meets the statutory requirements for the special exceptions with the following modifications. Quiet hours shall be from 9 PM to 8 AM, a 2-car maximum, and for a term of 1 year. And yes, I think 2 guests was listed on the,
It was in the application, yeah.
I'll second that.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Cast your votes. You're approved.
Thank you.
Item number 4, case number 16114 is an application by Todd Clark to allow home sharing located at 3511 North Florida Avenue.
Good afternoon. My name is Jason Hunt. I've been asked to read the following brief statement and answer any questions the board may have on behalf of Mr. Clark, who was unable to attend today's proceedings. Last year, the owners were represented by Mr. Chris Riggs in this Board of Adjustment meeting for special exception. Mr. Riggs was the previous resident and owner of 3511 North Florida Avenue property and shared it via Airbnb from 2019 to 2023. Over the years of 2019 to 2023, Mr. Riggs shared the home with a maximum occupancy of 10 persons and had 0 complaints. At the meeting last year, it was decided by the board that a maximum occupancy should only be 8 persons. It was also discussed by the board last year that if there were still no complaints or infractions throughout 2025, the board would consider raising the maximum occupancy to 10 persons this year. Since March of 2025, the owners were in compliance with the requirement to list the home share maximum occupancy as 8 persons. There have been no complaints since that time and no infractions. Guests have complied with the quiet hours from 8 p.m. to 8 a.m. The owners are superhosts on Airbnb with a 4.95 rating from over 400 reviews and pride themselves on being good hosts and good neighbors. In fact, the owners have helped with the Oklahoma City Police Department with multiple investigations in the last 2 years by providing video footage of the street from the owners' front door cameras. The owners would like to petition to increase the maximum occupancy back to 10 persons. There are more than adequate numbers of beds, including a queen bed in both upstairs bedrooms, a king bed and queen Murphy bed in the master bedroom downstairs, and a queen bed and full-size pull-out sofa in the living room. There are 2 half baths and plenty of parking. Holding the occupancy maximum at 8 has decreased the rental value and consequently the tax revenue for the city of Oklahoma City. It would benefit the city and the owners to increase the maximum occupancy to 10. And I'm here to answer any questions you may have.
Nobody signed up to speak on this one. Does anyone want to address the board on this application? Okay, anything from the board?
Just to go over the application again, and just a question. So it says number of rooms available 4, and then it says number of beds available 5. But online it shows this is only a 3-bedroom home.
As far as the listing, as far as how many bedrooms it has, there are
And you-
2 bedrooms upstairs, a 3rd downstairs, and I believe that they're counting the other sleeping space as the Murphy bed and pull-out in the living room.
So I think getting 8 is my limit on that, three beds plus 2.
If it's actually 3.
Yeah.
Okay,
And you're confident it's a 3-bedroom?
yeah, I mean, there are 2 upstairs and a large master downstairs.
You already looked this up on Calendar?
Yeah. And that's what I got, 3 beds.
For what it's worth, I've traveled a lot with a group that I play with, and we've stayed in Airbnbs that are much smaller than this one. And I would feel comfortable putting our entire group in this, and our group has been 10 to 12 people at any.
Yeah, I mean, for me, it's just a single-family home, mid-block. It's, to be at 8 residents in there at any one time with 2.5 baths, it's plenty.
Yeah. It's 3 beds. I mean, we have the option to go 3 times 2 plus 1 or 2, right? So we're giving grace, we're giving the 2 instead of the 1, where we often do 1.
I'm gonna stay at 7 just for consistency. I'll do +1 for the additional bed.
So there was a Murphy bed in the extra space
Yeah, there's a Murphy bed and a pull-out sofa.
and a pull-out sofa. I mean, that differentiates a little bit from what we've seen in the past. I mean, I can keep it at 8 for me
And
personally.
it being a timely renewal, that it was already at 8 is kind of why I was going to stay there.
I'm not,
Are you familiar with the driveway situation?
Yes,
And the
yes. As
light
a matter of fact,
pole?
I took photos of the parking situation, if you care to see them. There's a photo of my car parked on, do you have pictures? Yeah, okay. So if you look in the picture here, I have a photo of my car parked directly in front of the trash can that's in this photo right here, with probably 10 to 12 feet of room behind it to easily navigate either direction outside of that. The side on the right-hand side of that is deceptively narrow in photographs, but it is wide enough for me to get my car back through there without driving on the grass. The side on the right-hand or left-hand side is more than ample enough for people to pull in from that direction. So it's my belief you can get 3 cars safely in this driveway.
Okay, I'll go with 3 then for a maximum number of vehicles. And I want to keep that no on-street parking during quiet hours.
Okay.
So just overnight, no on-street parking. And the term, because it's a timely renewal, you could get up to 3 years.
Do what now? I'm sorry.
On the term?
Yes.
Because it's a timely renewal, you could get up to 3 years.
Okay, so does that mean they have 3 years before we come back here again and do this, or?
yeah.
Okay. Sorry, this is my first time doing this, so.
Yep. So it's 3 years from now, but you need to start that process prior to.
Okay.
It takes at least 2 months, so.
Okay.
Is that it?
3 years, 3 cars. What were quiet hours again?
9 PM to 8 AM.
9 p.m. to 8 a.m. Okay. Was that all the pertinent information I needed to take back to him?
I think that's all. I think the biggest thing is going to be the number of guests that
Right.
we're going to keep. I'm going to make a motion to keep it at 8, just like it's been for the last year. So,
I won't vote against it. I'll just abstain on this one, just for
Okay.
consistency.
all right. Then I'll make a motion to approve case number 16114 for the purpose that it meets the statutory requirements for the special exception with the following modifications. Maximum number of guests shall remain at 8, quiet hours from 9 p.m. to 8 a.m. For a term of 3 years, 3-car maximum, and no on-street parking during quiet hours.
I'll second that.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Cast your vote.
Okay. Thank you very much.
You're approved.
Item number 5, case number 16154 is an application by Libby Ross on behalf of Christopher Mostratz to allow home sharing at Northwest 11th Street.
Good afternoon. My name is Misty Stowe. I'm here on behalf of Libby Ross for a permit renewal at 1638 Northwest 11th Street. Here to answer any questions you might have.
Nobody signed up on this one. Is there anyone who wants to address the board on this application? Okay.
So we'll just go over the application just a little bit to make sure everything is the same, but the maximum number of guests is 4.
Yes.
It's a 2-bedroom.
Yes.
Quiet hours from 8 p.m. to 8 a.m.
Yes.
That's on the application. Maximum number of vehicles would be 2. And the term, because it's a timely renewal, will be 3 years.
3 years, yes.
I think that she had everything on there, right? Including the cars?
Yep.
So I'm just going to make a motion as proposed. So I'll make a motion to approve case number 16154 for the purpose that it meets the statutory requirements for the special exceptions for a term of 3 years.
I'll second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Cast your votes.
Thank you, guys.
Item number 6, case number 16162 is an application by Zachary Morgan Gregg and Amanda Rochelle Gregg to allow home sharing located at 11104 Spring Hollow Road.
Hello, I'm Amanda Gregg. I'm here for 11104 Spring Hollow Road in Oklahoma City.
I don't have anybody signed up on this one. Does anyone want to address the board on this application?
I was wondering why we were silent.
Checking to make sure.
Okay, all right. That's a lot of people for the next 2 cases then.
Correct. Pardon?
We're good?
I think we're
So there are some written protests in the
Yeah, did you
packet?
see my email in response to that?
Yes.
That it was the Oklahoma Tobacco Hotline or Helpline. They did an interview, so it wasn't home share related. They had come, and it was between 9 to 5. And they had
Yeah.
called Jill at the street department and gotten permission to park on the street. So,
Yeah, I
don't
read all
know
that
who's-
too, and there was another one just in general that,
yeah, I'm not aware of any other times there's been parking
Yeah.
on the street.
would you be opposed to not having street parking
I tell
during
all
the
my
quiet
guests no
hours?
street
I mean, it's a
parking.
big driveway already.
Yeah, and honestly, I don't know that there's ever been another time there has been. This was just a different use of the home, and so they were requesting permission to do that from the city.
And it is a duplex, right?
Yeah, it is a duplex, and my
And
tenant,
it's, how many beds is it?
it's 3 bedrooms, but the upstairs is about 1,200 square feet, so it's partitioned. It's kind of like a playroom with a bedroom off of it.
And originally, the first time it got approved, was it for 7 or?
It was for 8 the first time, and a lot of my neighbors have smaller homes in that area, and they're seeing 10.
Yeah,
And
well, we're not doing that anymore.
okay, that's fine. I've turned a lot of people away because I've complied with the 8, but I thought I'd ask.
And upstairs in the partition, what do you have for beds?
We have a king bed, and then we have a couch that pulls out into a bed in that, like, seating play area. And there's a bathroom up there as well.
And then downstairs, what are the sleeping arrangements?
There's 2 bedrooms and a bathroom.
What are the beds in those?
2 twin beds for children, and then a king downstairs.
I'm gonna be at 7. I know you don't wanna hear that, but I'm gonna be a maximum of 7 on this.
Okay. Even though there's, like,
There's 4 bedrooms?
3.
well, it's 2,500 square feet, though. That's generous.
So the 2 bedrooms downstairs and then the one upstairs.
It's partitioned, but it has a king and a sleeper couch.
And how big is that space upstairs?
The upstairs, it's like over 1,000 square feet. I think it's around 1,200 square feet. That's where the master bathroom is, actually. So it's a really generous area. It's almost the footprint of the downstairs.
Do you own the whole building?
Yeah. I have
What's on the other side?
I have a long-term tenant on the other side.
And how many square feet's the whole bit? The
5.
Yeah,
That's
it's-
a huge house.
It's really big, so it's pretty generous. And of the two, this is the bigger side of the duplex, the two duplexes.
I'm okay with saying it at 8, if that's what we granted it at before. I think that's why we're given the option 1 or 2, but with that being, my home, when I bought it up, originally the upstairs was about 1,000 square feet, and the fact that you've got a king bed and a pull-out couch. What size the pull-out couch?
The pull-out couch is a queen.
I can stay at 8, me personally.
Do we have folks signed up on this one? I know we have some for the next one, but not this one.
No.
Quite a few on the next two.
I think this had 1, 2, 3 written protests, but
Yeah, I read those, and then the response, which obviously,
yeah,
maybe that-
one-time events.
yeah, I'm not worried about that. Did you recall, I don't recall you addressing the cars that were parked. Did you read those protest letters?
I read all of those letters, but it was all the same event on February 5th when the Oklahoma
So
Tobacco
there was no,
Helpline was there, shooting like a short.
Yeah, and she's
interview.
good with just no on-street parking too. And it is a timely renewal. We did do it 8 last time. I mean, it's just the bed situation got me.
so officially, it's a 3-bedroom home, but it's got a
It's
divider.
officially, yeah, that is how it's listed on the county.
Yeah, I think just, again, just for the purposes of staying consistent, I'll do +1, so I'm gonna be at 7 on it, so it'll be up to,
Were you guys doing
Interesting.
+2 last year, or what, just out of curiosity, what's the difference?
I mean, just every individual case, and it was the sleeping arrangements. And I don't know if we asked if there was, upstairs, if there was 2 sets of beds up there or not.
Yeah.
It's just that being a sofa sleeper for me is not like a permanent bed. If there was a permanent bed in the other one and it was actual sleeping space, I'd be more inclined to go to the.
Put a bunk bed
to
in
the
there, because there's ample space. Would that be sufficient for you guys?
It would help me,
Okay, I will
yes.
do that, if that's, I don't get 8 guests all the time, but when I do, it's a family, and they're looking for, their kid to have a place to sleep, so.
That's one big family, 8 kids, or
Well,
eight people.
Yeah, and like I said, it's not all the time, but when it is, I'm happy to put a bunk bed
Yeah,
in
it's
there.
just a duplex, it's on the corner, there's, some unhappy people that are obviously watching at it, and to see it, just to house people and not be that much in harmony with the neighborhood is kind of an issue. So that's why I just try to keep it down.
No, I
on the
totally
numbers.
understand. I just was asking if that was something I could do.
Yeah.
How many bathrooms
2 bathrooms.
do we have? I forget.
Not a rule.
Okay. Well, we had discussed that at one
Yeah.
point. I keep forgetting. So you're willing to put a bunk bed upstairs in that huge space?
There's space. I mean, there's a ping pong table up there. There's a couch. I can pull the ping pong table out and put a bunk bed.
Or you make that a condition?
Let me ask a couple of questions. I just want to be sure. Now, looking at, and I read the materials, you said that there are 4 bedrooms being offered, but you really have only 3?
Yeah, the way those websites work is when a guest comes to book, they want to know where they're going to sleep. And so they want to know there's 4 independent sleeping spaces. So I'm not trying to deceive anybody, but there's, 4 places to sleep. And so I think the last gentleman was like that too. So I list it as 4 bedrooms, but it's like on Airbnb, it says 4 beds. It's not bedrooms. And then it goes through each individual sleeping space. So I list it like in the body of the text as 3 bedrooms, and I let them know where that is. So it's a little confusing as to how you input that into the software of Airbnb and how it spits it out.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
So,
No, I think you run a good business. I think, you know, you're diligent in how you operate it, and you put a bed in that for me, and that I can get to 8.
Okay, I'll do that.
all right, I'll make a motion then did we discuss cars?
Yeah, for the drive, the maximum number, I think we had 6 before, because 6 will fit in there, so.
Yeah. Okay, that would be great.
And I want to add no on-street parking, just
That's
to
fine.
appease the neighbors.
Yeah.
3 years.
Yep.
I'll make a motion then to approve case number 16162 for the purpose that it meets the statutory requirements for the special exceptions with the following modifications. Maximum number of guests shall be 8. There shall be no on-street parking, 6-car maximum, and the applicant has stated that she will put a bunk bed in the upstairs space, and this is for a term of 3 years.
I'll second.
Okay, we got a motion and a second. Cast your votes.
May I ask, how are we going to be able to confirm that there's a bed put in there? We don't go into the homes.
Right, we're not. We're just going to trust the applicant.
If you can submit just a photo when you get it up there, if you
do
can
that.
do that within, I don't know, 2 weeks, is that sufficient time?
I can do that, yeah.
Okay.
That's no problem.
I'm not sure that this motion is recorded in a board order, and I don't know that that's something that we'll be routinely able to confirm or check. So just so you know.
Okay, so would it be better to defer for 2 weeks and then allow the applicant to put the bed in there and then come back and rehear it?
Well, we don't currently confirm the bed layout for any other applications, so I think
We talk about it, but right, we don't, it's
Right.
not confirmed, and so
I
it's
think
just,
if that's-
it's something,
I think if that's what gets
Entrusted
you
to the
there and
applicant.
she's going to do it, then I just don't want anyone to think that we'll be able to, throughout the next term of this special exception, be able to confirm that.
right. And it could be a picture of anything.
Yeah,
Could be.
you're right.
Anyway, I'm good with it.
All right.
Okay, I think we got a motion and a second.
Did I second this? Yeah, okay.
Thank you, guys.
Am I the only one who voted?
Sorry.
I voted.
I hadn't. I got it.
Okay, now you're approved.
Okay, thank you.
Did you state the term on that?
3 years.
3.
Item number 7 is case number 16139, is a request of Troy Williams on behalf of David and Carol Adele for a special exception to permit a telecommunication tower located at 241 Southwest 21st Street.
Good afternoon. My name is Troy Williams. I live at 3204 Scotts Bluff in Norman, Oklahoma. I represent Branch Communications and Verizon. As you said, the property is located at 241 Southwest 21st Street. This area is an industrial zoned area. There are homes to the south. I'm about 435 feet from the closest home. This case was previously heard on a lot across the street, and we were discussing moving it to the front of the lot, but we took it as let's move it across the street into the back corner. The property to, the City of Oklahoma owns the property to the west, and it's a walking trail now. It's actually zoned I-2, and the property owner owns most of the property all the way to the east except for the corner and across the street on the south side. They're all zoned I-2. The property to the rear is the park. It's has a railroad behind it, and then it goes into the park. This site is needed because Verizon has sites to the west, south, a little bit southwest and a little bit southeast, and this is a hole. And then with everything that's going on at the park, the Olympics are coming in the 28th. There's going to be, it's a capacity issue for coverage. This will provide in-building coverage, cellular data, Wi-Fi, and an enhanced 911. I did read the letters from the applicants, pretty much the same as they complained last time on the site that was across the street. But I don't believe I read anything that was viable for denial, and I do have letters or information on all the health and safety from National Cancer Society, World Health Organization, National Institute of Health. I have all that if you'd like copies. I'm sure Counselor is very familiar with the Telecommunications Act of 1996.
Yeah, I will say that as far as we cannot regulate wireless services on the basis of environmental effects of radio frequency emissions. So that issue we really cannot regulate.
Okay, I'm sure you're familiar with it. We've been here before.
A long time ago.
Yeah, Section 704C, if you need to know that. One of the complaints was RF. RF from a cell tower is non-ionizing, meaning non-skin penetrating, versus the sun is ionizing. It's 1,000 times more, just to let you know. We're proposing a 40-foot by 50-foot area back in the very back of that lot. We meet the setbacks from the front, the side, and the rear based on I-2 zoning. The city has put in a nice little black vinyl fence around that area and kind of widened it. So I'm only 20 feet away from the property line to the west. I can slide the tower 5 more feet to meet the requirement if that's necessary. I did take pictures today. There's quite a few homeless tents that are built up around there. I'm sure there's a lot in this area. But the other thing is we're proposing an 8-foot vinyl fence around it, black vinyl fence, to match what's already up there, but make it 8 feet tall for security. The tower is also structurally designed to handle 3 carriers and for a 0 fall radius in a catastrophic event. Okay, just thought I'd throw that in there. The other reason why we're here is there is a U.S. Cellular tower 0.43 of a mile north, but they already have the coverage on that side. And there's a Crown Tower 0.4 of a mile south at 29th and Walker that's loaded. Like there's multiple carriers already on it, and those were not viable because the towers they have now to the southeast and southwest cover that part of Capitol Hill. This site is kind of unique because the historic line is about half of this property, and then it stops. So I know we'll deal with the Capitol Hill Historic Society anyway. We're already going to do that. And we'll deal with the scenic overlay after this hearing, of course, that we did previously on the other side. The closest house, like I said, is 435 feet, and the tower is 125 feet tall and is not lit, doesn't make noise. It's badly needed. We needed it 2 years ago when we were trying to do this. So anyway, do y'all have any questions for me?
I've got some folks signed up. Well, you want to hear them first?
Oh, yes, sir. Okay.
Kendra Clemens.
Good
Afternoon, Board. My name is Kendra Wilson Clements. I'm a business owner in Capitol Hill, as well as the treasurer for Calle de Cinco, the business bid board as well. I'm here to oppose this structure of the cell tower, and would like to read a kind of paraphrase a letter that was provided to the board earlier. Excuse me, and also forgive me, I am trying to nurse a cold. As a local business owner and community member, I do write and stand before you today with deep concern and strong opposition to the proposed telecommunications tower at the new entrance of Wiley Post Park at the end of South Harvey. This location is not just another parcel of land, and installing this cell tower here would expose our community to constant electromagnetic radiation and permanently alter the character of this public space. The people who live here, along with the children, families, and visitors who use Wiley Post Park every day, would face ongoing exposure. Beyond the human impact, there are well-documented concerns about the effects of electromagnetic radiation on birds, pollinators, soil, and water systems, which absorb even more radiation than we do as human beings. Placing this structure at the entrance to a green space sends the wrong message about our priorities in stewardship of the environment. Our district is at a pivotal moment, and this is me speaking as a board member for Calle de Cinco as well as a small business owner. We are at a pivotal moment. With the recent development of Calle de Cinco Plaza, we are experiencing long-awaited revitalization. New businesses are opening, visitors and tourists are discovering our area, momentum is building. This growth is fragile and it deserves protection. Introducing a highly controversial and potentially harmful industrial structure at the front door of our park threatens that progress, and it undermines the positive energy we have worked so hard to create in this district. This decision cannot be taken lightly. Once we install this tower, it will not be easily undone. I heard the gentleman speak earlier about the Olympics are coming. Yes, the Olympics are coming and then the Olympics are going, but this tower is a permanent fixture. The visual impact, the community concern, and the potential health and environmental implications will remain with us for decades. I urgently call on this board to reconsider this location and identify a more appropriate site, one that does not sit at the heart of a neighborhood, finally gaining strength, pride, and opportunity. Our community's health, environment, and economic future deserves far greater care and consideration. If I may, excuse me, I know that environmental issues are one thing to consider, but also as a newly revitalizing community and district, I would also like to speak on kind of some statistics that I learned about in terms of property value. It has been cited that homes within 0.72 kilometers of a cell tower decrease in value by an average of 2.65%. This is the complete opposite of what we are attempting to do for the district at Calle de Cinco. In addition, if a cell tower is visible from the property, which it will be very visible, then the properties decreased an average of 9.78%. So if not for the environmental impacts, I do urge you to consider the economic impacts of a cell tower to a newly revitalized and growing community. Thank you very much. Any questions?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Regina McCurdy.
Hello, Regina McCurdy. I am the house that is 435 feet from the cell tower. My address is 237 Southwest 22nd. I was here in 2023 whenever they wanted to put it directly behind my home, and we defeated that, and I'm hopeful that we'll do it again, especially now that they're reopening that entrance. That entrance has been closed for about 10 years. At the end of Harvey, the railroad closed it. When the city agreed to build the plaza, The railroad agreed to allow that to be back opened again. They have already put the new street in. They just have to put it over the railroad track. It's not quite complete, but the majority of the street is in. And the cell tower is going to sit right at that entrance. All the reasons that I gave back in 2023 why I didn't want there still exist. And there's been more research, and it has been found that some telecommunication towers approach schools and had them sign long-term leases for financial gain to put those on school property. And since then, it's been discovered that fertility, long-term exposure affects fertility. So some of those schools have decided they want those towers out. Because of the long-term leases, it's a huge financial burden and legal process to try to remove those towers. So as the research goes on, because there's research on both sides that it doesn't cause and that it does cause, it just depends on, who's doing the research, frankly. But I think when it's found out, I just want to know who's going to be prepared to do the battle then, that we want to have it removed at the park entrance, because it is going to be right there on the park, even though it's on the south side of the railroad tracks. The north side of the railroad tracks is where the park starts and where the new walking trail is. As far as the Olympics coming, when the NCAA championships were here, I have friends that own property at Reno and Walker, and they leased property to have a temporary tower put in so that there would be more cellular availability for the NCAA. So I don't know why that could not be the same thing as far as addressing the Olympics. And I think that's it. Anybody have any questions?
Thank you.
All right, thank you very much.
And this one looks like Drew Colbo.
Good afternoon. Thank you for hearing me. My name is Drew Colbo. I'm employed by a company called Crown Castle. We own and operate over 40,000 communication towers across the country, including an existing one located just up the hill from the proposed tower. Our structure is located behind the Oklahoma Opry at the address of 413 Southwest 26th Street. The applicant did reference our tower in the application and his testimony this afternoon. Our existing tower is approximately 0.4 miles from the proposed structure. However, our tower is not maxed out. We have 3 tenants on the tower, and there's probably room for a 4th. We have not, to my knowledge, engaged with the applicant. They've not approached us about locating on our tower. We certainly welcome them to use our existing structure before building a new one, especially because we're within the half-mile separation requirements and located in a scenic overlay district. We want to make sure that everybody makes every opportunity to use existing infrastructure before we build a new one. We welcome the applicant to use our tower or modify our tower to potentially increase the height or whatever they need to do to make it work. We're willing to work with them. Wanted you to know that we're here. I'm here to answer any questions you or anybody else has. Thank you for your time.
Questions, comments from the board?
You have a question. This may be a silly question, but I feel like I remember a meeting maybe a few years back, and it wasn't on this case, but is there not new technology, maybe it has something to do with the 5G technology that allows shorter towers to provide faster speeds? I think maybe, correct me if I'm wrong, was the trade-off faster speeds but less coverage on those shorter towers? Am I mixing that up?
That can certainly happen. I'm not a radio frequency engineer or expert in that area, but that is, common knowledge that as the technology improves, you do need, shorter structures and more close together. But the ordinance for the city reads half a mile, so we want to make sure that there's justification provided as to why it won't work.
Thank you.
Okay. We'll hear from the applicant again. You want to respond? Yeah. Okay. Anything else from the board? Okay. We ready for them? You're waving at me. You want to talk? Yeah. Come on back up, please.
Thank you, yes. The Crown side I did look at. It's got 3 carriers on it. The height is 96 feet. So we'd be about 50 feet off the ground. That's not going to cover what we need. It was considered, but then it basically is loaded. So if I remodify the tower, it's going to cost me almost as much to build a new tower. And speaking of that, property values. This is a $500,000 investment, $200,000 approximately for the tower foundation and everything that goes into it, and the equipment is a $300,000 investment for equipment. So, if anything, it's going to enhance property values. I've 30 years of doing wireless. I don't know of any that have ever decreased. I put them in towers in a pasture. Out in the middle of the pasture, they built a residential subdivision all the way around it, and right up to the lot, and both sides of the lot and behind it were houses. And so, anyhow, Marcus, I believe you're talking about small cells. They're like 35 feet tall, and they cover about 330 feet in diameter. They are good for outlet malls and shopping centers and things like that, where there's a lot of traffic at a lot of time. But they also send the signal back to a macro tower. So that's how they operate. They can handle a lot of traffic in a small area. But you got to have them about every 600 feet. Schools, I find it interesting that we are working with multiple school districts, not just in Oklahoma, but Texas and everywhere else. Because the kids are using electronic books and things like that now, which need data, high-speed data, and Wi-Fi. So, and like I said, you have all the health and safety things you need. I don't need to really go into that. Did you have any more questions for me? And I just might add that, I went by there today. Again, the property to the east they build pallets, and they had 18-wheelers backed up in there loading pallets, taking pallets. It's a lot of use, a lot of activity. The Oklahoma Housing Authority is full, and they have, most of them, probably every one of them have cell phones. I do see them outside a lot of times using their phone, so we wouldn't be putting a site in if it wasn't needed for capacity and coverage. And again, this is industrial zoned. Do you have any questions for me? Any more questions? If I drop the tower to 75 feet, it's a quarter-mile separation. But again, now it's going to cause me to put another site in. So I'm trying to cover a problem with one site.
Would a 75-foot tower at this location be approved by right?
Yes. Oh, you weren't asking me, were you? Sorry.
You answered the question, that's fine. I figured it was, I was just putting it out there.
The height, yeah, the way that it works is that they have to meet if they can meet all the conditions, then they would just move through permitting. They're here because of the 2 conditions they don't meet.
And the 2 conditions that you don't meet are the quarter mile, or the half mile, and what was the other one?
That is correct, sir.
Both have to do with height, just because it's over 75 feet, and it's got to be equidistant from
The half mile.
Yes, at the previous meeting, they were too close to, I believe, to a residential use. Sorry. This time, they're far enough away from the use, but the park is zoned R1, and the land to the west is zoned R4. So they're too close to a residential district.
Yes, zone property, different use, but okay, yes, you're correct, ma'am.
Okay. Any other questions or comments?
What's our biggest concern that we're trying to service? What area are you trying to service with the extra height?
They're trying to cover the park, the Oklahoma Housing Authority, the residential neighborhood to the south, and all the industrial to the east. You got the big Peruna plant down at the end of the street. You got industrial uses up and down both sides of this street, as well as residential to the south. But the park has a lot of activity, or a lot more activity, use, it seems like. And the towers that are trying to cover this now, they're at capacity, so their coverage pattern shrinks. So we're trying to go literally right, almost in the middle, to provide full coverage. And it also provides in-building coverage.
For me personally, I'm having trouble getting past C, which is that special exception, if granted, would be the minimum necessary to alleviate the unnecessary hardship. And I just do not see, if you can get a tower in at 75 feet, I'm having trouble proposing something or allowing something that's going to be double that size to fill in little parts and whatnot, especially if we've not maximized other areas.
I'm sorry, 75 feet won't fill the hole though, because of the signal, the way it goes out. The lower you are, the smaller the coverage area is.
No, well, I understand, but at the same time,
It fills some of the gap, and I'm with my fellow commissioner on this, or board member on this. The height to me is, it's too tall in this location. With the R4 use and the R1 use. You could figure out to go further north some way.
We have a site north. That's why we didn't look at the U.S. Cellular Tower that's on the other side of the park.
Just on the other side of the park?
Well, it's, I don't have the street address. Oh, shoot. I don't have the street address. It's north of the park, probably maybe 2 blocks north of, almost straight due north. It's due north 0.43 of a mile. I know. It's an odd number. I know the site, when we wanted to do it across the street, it met the half-mile setback from there. It was just a...
And the reason we cannot go any farther north is because a tower is not allowed inside the park.
That's correct, sir.
And the park's owned by which entity?
Oklahoma City.
Okay, so it sounds to me like maybe that would be the least restrictive. Like get authorization from the city to allow you to put a tower in there, and then allowing you to get past the 500 feet.
We've been trying to put a cell tower in the city parks. I've been doing this 30 years, and they don't allow it. You got a lot of parks in perfect locations.
And you know, there's the argument that the Olympics are coming. I could see the argument the Olympics are going to be a short time, right? Do you want us to grant you a special exception for the period of the Olympics, and then it's going to be taken down? No, it does not look like you want that.
No, I just added that that's additional coverage on top of everything. And you brought in, the gentleman said that we brought in, they're called cellular on wheels for the NBA thing. Those you put in for like 2 weeks and to help capacity, because it's crazy. This will help what we already have, much less when the Olympics come. It's going to be totally blocking calls, and the number of people, you just can't cover it all. We'll have to still bring in temporary sites. Not just Verizon, AT&T, T-Mobile, everybody will. We're trying to fix a problem. We tried to fix it a couple of years ago, I guess, and it's gotten worse and worse and worse. So the more capacity the pattern shrinks. And industrial 2 is allowed use, so that's, and the walkway is actually zoned I2 as well. This lot is also a little bit unique. The drainage goes right in the front of the lot and goes around the side between the building, by the building. So it kind of, I have to drive. My driveway is actually going to be where the existing driveway is for the pallet place, just to come across. They've already put in utilities there because they lost transformers and everything, so that's already, power's already there.
I think for me, the problem is when we hear matters here, they're talking about this particular piece is unique. It's, someone needs to put a shed, but the lot's shaped very weirdly. So we need to place it, you know, farther up front on the lot, closer to say the frontage road. For me, in this case, you're still affecting a 500-foot radius with what you're proposing as far as the monopole, I think is what it was.
Yes, sir.
I don't think that the particular lot can be used, that this is, it's a strange situation. For that reason, we need to put it at this particular location. I just can't see that argument. For me, I still think there's other viable options. It may not get you to a 10 out of 10 solution. It may get you to a 7 out of 10 solution, and I just don't feel comfortable proposing the special exception. Me personally, you may be able to get 4 other votes, but for me personally, I've not seen anything that would allow me to vote in favor of this request.
I believe you had asked me last time in the hearing to put it on the front of the other lot. So I kind of went above and beyond and moved it as far away from the residential as I could and hid it back in this area.
What's the housing authority property zoned?
R4. It's 185 feet from the edge of the building to the tower.
And we don't have the property itself listed, but what's the distance to the property?
I'm sorry, to the
property. So the property line from the I2 to the R4?
From this lot, sir?
Mm-hmm.
It's going to be
Just across that road?
25 and plus 20 be 55 feet from the tower to the property line.
Anything else, or are we ready for a motion? Anything else, are we ready for a motion? And regardless of what the motion is, I think there are some federal requirements that have to go in whether we vote yes or no. You want to help?
We should probably hear that.
On that. If you're going to deny it, federal law requires that it be in writing and that it be, there's substantial evidence in the written record to deny it. So basically, we need to have evidence that would go against what the applicant is stating. So that's, also we can't like prohibit or have the effect of prohibiting cellular service. And I think that goes to the standards that we have in our ordinance. So we would have to show that there are other places that would be viable for them to receive cell service. There are other available co-locations. And so that is, the evidence that we would need to dispute the applicant's evidence.
Now, who wants to make a motion? Oh, I'm sorry. Sure, come on up.
R4 is a low-income housing apartment complex. It's 4 stories, 2 sides. I don't know, there's probably, I'm going to say 800 residents there, all low income. And I went and talked to the manager about talking to the residents. She was not comfortable with me doing that, so that's why none of them are here. But I spoke with them off property, and they're not in favor of it as well. We've all been really excited about that new opening to the park. But if this tower goes in, we're all going to be walking under that tower, going in and out of the park, because they, again, closed that access. But that's what the R4 is that low-income residential area. So, and also about the investment that he said he was making, the $300,000 investment, that is for profit for Verizon. That's not an investment in our community. Not like the plaza that the city just put in. That was an investment in our community. This is not an investment in our community. This is an investment for profit. Thank you.
And this is just one self-service company that's not, we're not depriving the area from cell service itself. It's just one company coming in to put a new tower. So is that?
And you can't discriminate against companies just because there's another
Other
company.
company.
But you do, I mean, you know, you do have to have, he needs to prove all of these elements as far as there's the gap and that there's no other place and those kind of things. So.
Right.
But again, then we would have to have evidence to dispute that.
Mm-hmm. And another, I mean, we've had other cases, they're very familiar or similar to this, and the question has come up about, you know, increasing the height of another pole to allow service. For me, it's so close to the R4 zoning, so close to the residential use. It's not within the ordinance of a half mile. That for me is the evidence that you could deny.
If there's nothing, I can try to make a motion if you guys.
Go right.
I make a motion that we deny case number 16139 on the basis that it doesn't meet the statutory requirements, particularly offered as evidence. This piece of property, there's nothing peculiar about this piece of property. It's not an unnecessary hardship. I believe that it could be achieved with smaller towers. Even if you have to do multiple towers, I understand that you won't get quite the range, but I think that that's an option. I don't believe that it's peculiar to this property, simply because the property, there's nothing special about this property. The grade doesn't change or vary greatly from that of adjacent properties. If this was in a hole or there was a 50-foot drop-off, then I would think that that would qualify as something being peculiar. That's not the case here. The ordinance sets out clearly what the requirements are for conditional use to be granted. And I think that the applicant can comply with that. And then lastly, as it pertains to the minimum necessary to alleviate the unnecessary hardship, I'm going to cite the gentleman that spoke, who's a part of Crown Castle. He stated that he has no objection to working with the applicant to co-locate on that tower. I believe that he also indicated that he would not be opposed to increasing the height of that tower. So for those reasons, I make a motion that this application be denied.
Second.
Yeah, the only thing I would say is this is not a variance, so those standards don't really apply as far as the uniqueness and all that.
But it's sufficient for evidence.
Your other grounds would be.
Okay, we got a motion to deny. Did I hear a second?
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to deny. Cast your votes. Denied. Next.
Case number 16159 and is appealed by Box Law Group on behalf of CCF Recycling Incorporated, Darrisburg Recycling USA, from the decision of a city official regarding the interpretation that a special permit is required for the approval of a building permit located in the I-3 district located at 100 North Bath Avenue.
Good afternoon, David Box, 525 Northwest 11th Street, here on behalf of the appellant. My client's also flown in to be here with us today. I also have with me Cooper Hahn from my office and Mark Zitzow of Johnson Associates. Johnson Associates was tasked with submitting the building permit. Now, this is undoubtedly going to look familiar. We came before you on a similar case several months ago. What we have here are a couple things on site. I want to first say what this is not about. This is not about the shredder. The shredder, which is on site, is what has for years caused lots of controversy with the neighborhood. The shredder is the piece of equipment that historically has caused noise and concerns, is what led to a blast wall being built. What we are talking about today is the shear. The shredder is not before you. It will continue to operate in perpetuity. What is before you is a building permit for the shear. The shear, think of a big scissor that cuts metal. It is almost silent. The current shear is an old diesel-run machine that has found itself at the end of its life, and what we are trying to do is replace it with an in-kind piece of equipment. Now, when we came before you months ago, our appeal was denied, and there were three primary reasons given. We were slightly moving the location from where the shear is now to where the new piece would go, and the size was bigger for a couple reasons. There were additional components on the new piece of equipment that we don't currently have now, and it's slightly bigger. It's slightly bigger because they don't make the old diesel anymore. This is an electric, highly efficient, and that in and of itself means it's slightly bigger. So we then submitted a new building permit application whereby we removed the crane, we removed the conveyor, we removed all of the pieces that were on the new piece of equipment that don't currently exist now on the old piece of equipment in an effort to satisfy the concerns that were raised. Mr. Zitzow is here and can testify if the board would like. When we submitted the new building permit, we sought to meet with staff to walk through and explain why we filed a new permit, what it is. We were denied the ability to meet with staff. Instead, staff just denied it. In communications with staff, specifically Jeff Butler, who's here, Jeff Butler, in a December 22nd, 2025 email, states, the new equipment increases the output capacity, allowing an increase in intensity of the use. An increase in intensity equates to expansion. Presumably, he sought help from the municipal counselor's office, but regardless, that is completely misguided. That is factually inaccurate as a matter of law. And the reason that's the case, we need look no further than the Oklahoma Supreme Court in the case of Triangle Fraternity versus City of Norman, 2002 OK 80, in which the Oklahoma Supreme Court says, a mere increase in volume, intensity, or frequency of a nonconforming use is generally recognized as insufficient to invalidate it. So you are here today as an appellate trial, essentially, to decide whether or not staff was correct in their interpretation of this new piece of equipment, increasing the capacity, I guess is what Jeff's email said, thereby somehow lapsing our non-conforming use and requiring a special permit. Now, what's important to note, Sarah, could you go to an aerial? Do you have a zoning map by chance? This site, as well as all sites surrounding it, are zoned I3. I3 is the most intense zoning district that we as a city have. And in fact, the use and operation of the I3 site here and surrounding it predates any residential that exists. Between us and any residential home, we have a railway, we have a concrete batch plant, and we have significant warehouse and industrial development. We started operating prior to the existence of the ordinance. And why that's important is because we were a legally operating business prior to the adoption of the ordinance requiring a special permit for this use, we are considered legally nonconforming. That comes with it certain vested rights. And some of those rights include the ability to modernize and replace in kind with pieces of equipment. That is all we are doing here. Now, staff also has a misguided interpretation of what the use is, and I'm going to have Mr. Hahn come up and explain that, but staff wants to say that the use of scrap operations is limited to the site in which the shear is located. Well, that's incorrect, and as you'll see through aerials, the use is really the property, because the property is where pieces of material are housed until such time that they get to the shear. And I understand there are people here that want to speak, and I understand there are people here that perhaps don't like my client, don't like that we exist here, but this is a pure legal argument as to whether or not my client's rights, which frankly predate the folks that live there, can continue. And based upon established Oklahoma Supreme Court law, they can. We are simply trying to replace this piece of equipment in kind with a machine that is electric, far more efficient, and much quieter than the current shear that exists. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Mr. Hahn to walk through the piece of why the use really extends to the entirety of the property, not the spot where the shear is located.
Thank you. Cooper Hahn, 525 Northwest 11th. City staff's interpretation would have you believe that the legal nonconforming use is the footprint of the shear. Of course, that can't be the case because the city has defined our legal nonconforming use as a scrap operation. And per the ordinance, scrap operations are defined as places of business primarily engaged in the storage, sale, dismantling, or processing of used and waste materials that are not intended for reuse in their original form. Typical uses include automotive wrecking operations and junkyards. Those typical uses, much like my client's use, often occur all over a property, outside of buildings, scattered throughout. There might be machinery involved, there might not be, but there's storage of it, there's processing of that type of things, and then it's eventually shipped off for sale. My client's operation is no different. Here I have an aerial from 2022 showing the entirety of the property. It's a 12-acre property. Almost half of the property is covered with scrap. There's also a significant amount of machinery all over the property. There's storage containers throughout the property in various locations. All of that's allowed to continue. Zoomed in, and here, just so I can point to you, here is the shear. Obviously, that is just a small function of a part of a greater use. This greater use is what we're allowed to continue. Here, again, would be a zoomed in of that same aerial of the shear. It's surrounded by the scrap metal in which it processes. The use cannot function without the existence of all this scrap. I went out there on Monday. Many of these piles are 20 foot high. Again, they still continue to take up the vast majority of the property. The legal non-conforming use is not the footprint of the existing shear. It can't be. The existing shear by itself is nothing without the scrap operation. The legal non-conforming use is the scrap operation. As David mentioned, the staff report confirmed that predates the ordinance requirement for a special permit. And why that's important is because not only does case law tell us stuff, but statute tells us, and this is Title 11, Section 44-107.1, the lawful non-conforming use of a building, structure, or premises, here my client is using its premises, as such existed at the time of the adoption and recording of any ordinance affecting it may be continued, although such use does not conform with the provisions of such ordinance. Statutorily, we are allowed to continue. Now, Mr. Box also mentioned some case law, that is Triangle Fraternity v. City of Norman. Not only does that case tell us that an increase in volume or intensity does not remove legal nonconforming use, but they actually confirm what state statute, and they interpret that state statute allows for a legal nonconforming use that it is entitled to continue absent a substantial change in nature, character, or purpose of the pre-existing use. We aren't changing any of that. We are doing an in-kind replacement. Staff's interpretation takes issues with things like storage containers. We have storage containers right now. I saw them on Monday. They move throughout the process. We'll continue to have storage containers. Those are legally allowed. That's part of our legal nonconforming use. All we're trying to do is replace an aging shear with a new shear. It is more efficient. It does not increase the intensity, in my opinion, but even if it does, it doesn't matter. The law tells us that. All we're trying to do is replace an existing aging shear and modernize it to today's standards so that we can continue the use that we're legally entitled to continue by statute and by the Supreme Court.
We're happy to answer any questions, but we would ask that you reverse the decision of staff and allow our in-kind replacement to move forward consistent with our vested property rights. Happy to answer any questions.
Okay, questions or comments from the board? All right, we've got a lot of people signed up to speak, and I've got a speech I'm going to make before we do that. Jeff, do you want to go next, or you want to wait? What's your preference?
It's your preference if you'd like me to speak now or after the
Go ahead,
public
you're
comment.
here.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Jeff Butler, Planning Director. Just a few comments before we move on, and if it's okay with the board, I'd like to have Matt Collins, from our attorney's office, make some comments as well. So just briefly, the purpose of the nonconforming use code. So all zoning ordinances have a section in their codes, a section within the ordinance that deals with nonconforming uses. So at some point, the city council determined that a special permit, and this was many decades ago, by the way, that a special permit would be required to have this sort of use. Cities change their zoning codes from time to time. It's important to realize that things change. This area has changed a lot since mid-century, since many decades ago, and zoning ordinances are updated to reflect changes that happen, and that is the case here. So there are times where certain uses that were appropriate in an area are no longer appropriate, or it may be the case that additional requirements may need to be added to those uses. In this case, that's why the special permit was added to the city's code decades ago for this use. So it's not that the use can't be done necessarily, it's that a special permit is required. So the goal for when there's a non-conforming use, often the goal is for the use to eventually go away, or again, as I said, to add additional requirements or additional regulations to make it compatible with its neighbors. So either one of those could be a reason for the non-conforming use or for the zoning ordinance to take a different approach to a particular use. So the goal is that the non-conforming use ordinances exist not to place an undue, or to prevent there being an undue burden on the property owner. In other words, you don't adopt a zoning ordinance and immediately expel the property owner. There is often a time period that's allowed for them to continue their use. And occasionally there are amortization clauses where a use is allowed to exist and eventually go away over a period of years. That's not the case here. It's just understood that a use will eventually go away or have additional regulations applied to it to make sure it's compatible. So the relevant portion of the code states, a non-conforming use shall not be expanded or moved in whole or in part to any other portion of the lot or parcel on which it is located. So if Sarah, if you could bring up that slide, we'll show briefly what is proposed. So the red box there is the existing shear. The other gray boxes are the shear at the top and then the associated structures that go with it to provide electrical support and so on. So you can see the relative scale and size. So if you go to the next slide, it shows there the red box again is existing. This is just kind of squished together, to use a technical term, so that you can see the relative expansion. So you can go back to the site plan, if, Sarah, thank you. So the proposal with its 3 shipping containers and larger sheer site or structure represents an expansion of the existing use, both spatially and in terms of intensity. Now, it's not necessarily that the use is limited to the actual sheer site, but it is that the sheer expansion is a major contributing factor to the expansion of use that's indicated in the zoning code. So the new equipment increases output capacity, allowing an increase in the intensity of the use. An increase in intensity equates to an expansion of the use. The manufacturer's literature states that the machine allows productivity gains of 25%, and that these machines are ideal to reach very high production levels up to 110 tons per hour. Finally, the appellant has asserted that the use extends to the entire property, but if we follow that logic to its conclusion, the business could add unlimited shears, shredders, et cetera, without ever expanding the use. So I disagree with that interpretation, and I'd like to, if it's okay with the board, turn it over to Matt.
Good afternoon. Matt Collins, Municipal Counselor's Office, here to speak on behalf of affirming Mr. Butler's determination that he's made. Again, want to highlight that this board is squarely focused on making a rendering as to affirm, reverse, or modify that determination, which was essentially that a special permit would be required to obtain a building permit to replace the existing shear on the property. So the question is, did the city get it right? Again. At the onset, I will say that this appeal is substantially similar to the one you heard prior. I'll also point out that pursuant to Section 59151501, the burden, that's of the municipal code, the burden of establishing that any nonconformity is lawfully existing under the provisions of this article shall, in all cases, be upon the owner of the nonconforming property and not upon the city. So the burden here is on the appellant. Provision, and then secondly, in regards to nonconforming uses, provisions of the zoning regulation for the continuation of such uses should be strictly construed, and provisions limiting nonconforming uses should be liberally construed. That's Paul's Valley case. I'll discuss it a little bit later in more detail. So I think it's important to note what is the same as the last time. First off, the ordinances have not changed. Second, this is still bigger than the existing shear. Nothing has changed there. You saw Mr. Butler's exhibit. I think that adequately portrayed that it is bigger. I don't think that is disputed in any capacity or any substantive capacity. Third, it's still considerably beyond the footprint of the existing shear. It hasn't changed. Fourth, it is still capable of handling significantly more product. Mr. Butler again mentioned that. I won't repeat that information. Fifth, it was previously denied. And if you will recall, the appellant offered this very proposal to you in that hearing heard on August of 2025. We've been there, done that on this. As discussed at length back in August of 25, the municipal code, and I won't read it all because Mr. Butler's already done that for you, but the beginning is what's important. A nonconforming use shall not be expanded. Well, I'll go ahead and read it all. Or moved in whole or in part to any other portion of the lot or parcel in which it is located. That's 5915-200.1B. I would argue that this request expands the use in 3 independent ways. First off, it expands it physically. Again, it's undeniably larger than the existing shear, and it's undeniably larger than the existing footprint. 2, the ability to process materials expanded. Let's see. That's what Mr. Butler has already ran through on the productivity gains of 25%. And third, It expands the very life of the nonconforming use. Counsel for the appellant has been clear, or was it previously at the prior hearing, that the intent by replacing the shear is to extend the life of this use for decades. Moving to a couple points that were brought up, the appellant's counsel has mentioned multiple times that this is a like-kind replacement. Well, I'll point out that there is no reference whatsoever to like-kind replacement in the code. It does not exist. It is a replacement. It is a replacement of a key piece of equipment that, again, is bigger, more capable, and will expand the use for years, generations, decades to come. Any argument that this is an allowable modernization, that's what's misguided. First, there is no allowance for modernization per 59.15.200.1. And even if the code references to modernization, even if those did apply, that only allows modernization as to improvements or remodeling. This simply is not improving or remodeling. It's an outright replacement of the shear. I mean, when you replace your broken down car with a new one, you're not improving that car or remodeling it. You are replacing the car. It would be disingenuous to suggest otherwise. Turning to case law, the Triangle Fraternity case, 2002 OK 80. That does have some nice quotable statements in that case. But I will tell you that case is not on point and has been taken out of context. The Triangle case dealt with the transfer of ownership from one owner to another. Norman tried to say that a transfer from a senior lodging location would lose its nonconforming status by virtue of being transferred to a fraternity who was also going to be lodging people, same use. And in that situation, well, I'm sorry, let me back up just slightly. If the city were claiming the ownership issue, we would have done that back in 2005 when the transfer to the appellant's ownership group occurred. By the way, this non-conforming use situation has been around since the 80s. So they came to this. At any rate, let's see. We're dealing with the swapping of major key equipment that requires footing and will extend the very life of the use for decades. It's not a transfer of ownership issue. A more applicable case would be one out of Pauls Valley. That's Wilkerson v. Pauls Valley, 2001 OK Civ App 66. And while that is the Court of Civil Appeals, I could cite you a Supreme Court case, but if it's not on point, it's worthless. So this Court of Civil Appeals case I'm suggesting is more applicable. In that case, the owner of a mobile home park had mobile homes that had a legal nonconforming status due to their violation of a flood control ordinance. But when those units became obsolete or required replacement, the mobile home park was just swapping them out and putting different mobile homes there. Well, the mobile homes, just like the shear, were key pieces to that mobile home operation. And the court determined the following, and I apologize, but I'm going to read this, that the trial court correctly ruled that the ordinances should not be construed so as to permit an indefinite continuation of nonconforming uses. It continued, thus public policy calls for the elimination of nonconforming uses as expeditiously as possible. Finally, they cited another case which stated nonconforming uses are a thorn in the side of proper zoning and should not be perpetuated any longer than necessary. The policy of zoning is to abolish nonconforming uses as speedily as justice will permit, end quote. The good news is, City Council set the policy for this. They set the policy back in the 80s. This has been around for a long time. And this board is that's not yours to set. What is being proposed here is simply not a coat of paint. It's not swapping out a tube television for a flat screen. What's being proposed is a replacement and an expansion, a major one. And it's an effort to perpetuate the non-conforming use without a special permit for decades to come. We respectfully ask that this board affirm the decision once again, and I'd be happy to answer any questions if you have them.
Thank you. So, Mr. Collins cites a 2001 Court of Civil Appeals case, which for the lawyers on the board, of course, we know that the Supreme Court is the Superior Court. Our case was 2002, the Supreme Court. I'm not sure what the point he was trying to make as it related to the Triangle Fraternity, but the facts of that case, he kind of started and then stopped, were it was a senior independent living facility or something, and it was switching to a fraternity house. I mean, frankly, those are two separate uses. I lived in a fraternity house. My grandmother lived in a senior independent living facility. These were two very different things. There, City of Norman said, you've got to come to us for approval. Triangle Fraternity said no. Supreme Court said no, even though these are maybe two different uses. We aren't two different uses. We are the same use, okay? His belief that the size of the shear itself is a bigger footprint ignores what the use is. The use is the entirety of the premises. One component on that is the shear. We're not trading a car for a new car. We're trading a tire of the car for a new tire on that car. And he keeps saying it's more product, it's bigger. The Supreme Court of the state of Oklahoma has said a mere increase in volume, intensity, or frequency of the nonconforming use is recognized as insufficient to invalidate it. That cuts directly against the argument that you just heard from the city attorney's office. So I'm happy to come up at the end of this and address anything that's raised by the public, but I thought perhaps we should clarify the law.
Well, I'll just state the obvious. The appellants have appealed your prior determination to the district court. If they were so confident in that position, we wouldn't be right back here with them trying to improve the facts.
Okay. We've got quite a few people signed up to speak, and I want to emphasize, stop me if I say this wrong, this is an appeal. We're not here to talk about noise, and we don't like scrap yards. The issue, as I see it, is the city says they need a special permit. The property owner says, no, we don't. That's the appeal. Yes or no, the city got it right. So with that, does anybody have any questions for Matt or David before I go on? Please address your comments to the appeal issues. Walter Jacks.
Good afternoon, Walter Jacks, 4832 Kelsch Drive. I know this, you just mentioned this is not about noise. We're talking about the shear and not the shredder, which is the issue before the appeal. I want to talk about that company maybe from a different perspective, just plain not being a good community partner. I went there to talk about the shredder issue, and I talked with the management last year. And I think it's telling findings. Two major takeaways from the conversation that I had with the management at that firm on their site. One, they have a limited number, basically a limited number of suppliers of crushed cars that come into that facility. So they know, I don't know, I got the impression.
Let me stop you.
Yes, sir.
How come the city is right?
How come the city is right?
And from property owners, why is the city wrong?
For the appeal perspective.
Yes, sir.
Well, I was convinced by Mr. Butler's argument regarding the movement of the machinery, the increased capacity, the amount of space it would take up on the lot.
Okay.
Okay.
That I understand. Thank
all right.
you.
That's all I'll say. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. And looks like Linda Toure.
Good afternoon. Thank you for allowing us to be here today. I simply want to say, I ask that you do not allow this to continue, that you deny the appeal, and I could say more, but I would say to you, we built a wall that was supposed to stop the loud bombs or explosions. Last week we heard 4, and so I ask that you please deny this appeal. It does not help our neighborhood to grow and develop the way we want it to. I appreciate your time.
Okay, thank you. Looks like, didn't Retta Davis? Did I say that right? Ma'am? Ms. Davis.
Good afternoon. So I could say more as well. I am president of the JFK Neighborhood Association as well as the Northeast Oklahoma City Neighborhood Coalition, 18 neighborhoods represented that collaborate in Northeast Oklahoma City. And we are here, I am here, we are here to adamantly oppose this appeal. We know that you said you didn't want to hear about the explosions, but that we can't separate that, but because that's what the company does. But we adamantly oppose it. We agree with the decision of the planning director, and ask that you vote no, and that you do not allow the fact that there is already a court case against you to influence your vote.
Thank you. Taylor Doe.
Taylor Doe, 1835 Northeast 6th. I've been on the east side for 15 years, in JFK for 12. And I will also keep my statements brief. But I will say that the corporation has been dishonest in our dealings, it seems like, over the years. And you can see that with other cities, as I'm sure you've done your due diligence to see the other lawsuits from around the country. And so they'll say that the new expansion will not cause additional explosions, which I believe it's a different tool, but because of their dishonest practices time after time, it's hard to believe that this isn't just a step in a bigger plan, right? We're extending a footprint of the shear, which means that there could be other equipment in the future. And so I just wanted to vote to bring for you guys to vote no on this. Thank you.
Okay, thanks, sir. Looks like Deanne McDaniel? Diane, sorry.
Diane McDaniel, 617 North Everest Avenue. I've been living in that residence for 41 years. It shocked me today when I looked at the deed. But I adamantly oppose this petition. Mr. Bach, you did a good job trying to explain, but you did a better. We are tired. We are really tired of the company not considering the residents. We have grad students from OU nursing, doctors, dentists, and they have to be exposed to all of that. We're a neighborhood. And for 41 years, that company has invaded our privacy and our peace of mind. So please vote no. Thank you.
And this one looks like Jeff Travilla.
Good afternoon, Jeff Trevelyan, 511 North Fonshill Avenue. I just want to get to the point that on the Triangle case down in Norman, I just want to reiterate there are some major differences that distinguish the facts of this case and the facts here from what happened down there. And I know the appellant would have you believe that since this area is zoned I-3, they can just do whatever they want. They cannot do whatever they want. It is up to the city to provide for the health, safety, and welfare of the residents. And in the Triangle case, the main difference is what I would reiterate is that the city of Norman at that time was requiring a rezoning, not a special permit, as in this particular case. And the issue was also with a boarding house versus a fraternity house. So the facts are there. And that case did not involve the installation of dangerous commercial equipment that the city is entitled to regulate here. And so again, as the city attorney said, the burden is on the appellant. They have not presented, I don't believe they presented persuasive evidence that the footprint is going to be the same or smaller. And respectfully, the explosions do have everything to do with this permit and whether the city is right, because under the statute, Title 11, 44-107, it discusses how the criteria, a variance in terms and standards of the criteria as it pertains to allow use of a zoning district as authorized in zoning ordinance may be granted in whole and in part upon reasonable conditions as provided in this article, and the Board of Adjustment may, upon finding that the Board of Adjustment may, the application of the ordinance to a particular piece of property would create an unnecessary hardship. The conditions are peculiar to the particular piece of property involved, and relief, if granted, would cause a substantial detriment to the public good or impair the purposes and intent of the ordinances or comprehensive plan. And the comprehensive plan here is that industrial use is incompatible with residential property. That is the overall plan. Even though they've been here for over 40 years, the city has grown, and to allow them a new piece of property is going to basically increase their presence there. They need to move on. They need to amortize their property, depreciate the assets that they have invested there over time. They shouldn't be allowed to reinvest in that property and basically anchor themselves further into that particular area. They need to move, and this is a part of that. And that is the reason that the city has adopted these ordinances in order to have compatible uses and health, safety, and welfare of the residents. And our health, safety, and welfare is being disregarded and by these explosions that happen daily. We had 3 in one day just 2 weeks ago. 3 in one day. They have no regard for our health, safety, and welfare, and it is up to our government, our city government, to protect us and to prevent people whose only motive is profit and how much they can recycle and process, and this machine is going to allow them to process more and make more money. That's the only reason they're putting that new piece of machinery in there. They need to have a plan to move, and I would just submit that all of these legal issues need to be sorted out in the courts if necessary. So I would just implore this body to affirm the decision to deny the special permit. Thank you.
Elaine Nelson Lewis.
Good afternoon. My name is Elaine Nelson Lewis at 608 North Kellam Avenue. I'm here on behalf of the residents of JFK neighborhood. I support denying the appellant's request based on the prior ruling of the Board of Adjustments. The board acted within its authority and applied the zoning code appropriately. There has been no clear demonstration of procedural error or misapplication of the ordinance that would justify overturning that decision. For those reasons, the appeal should be denied and the board's ruling upheld. Our request is simple. Based on this long record of booms, fires, and ongoing disruption, deny approval for new equipment or expansion that's likely to increase intensity of use. If the board is inclined to approve anything, we ask that you impose enforceable conditions, independent monitoring, mandatory incident reporting with penalties, limits on processing hours, and a verified prevention plan for pressurized tanks and flammables, because history shows voluntary measures have not protected our neighborhood. We deserve the same safety and quality of life as any other Oklahoma City neighborhood. Thank you.
Okay. And looks like Crescia Redis?
Good afternoon. Crescia Redis, 604 Bath Circle. I did cross off some of my notes, so I did shorten everything. I want to mention that I keep hearing that this facility was there before residents, and I find that hard to believe. My opinion is that's not true, and I do want to read what the Daily Oklahoman wrote April 23rd, 2021. Durisburg, formerly CFF, acquired its first recycling shredder in Oklahoma City in 1979. When the industrial site began operating in the late 1960s, the surrounding Kennedy neighborhood was heavily populated by Black families, many of whom lived in homes on the southern fringe that were now largely empty. And this is according to the Oklahoman, April 23rd, 2021. I want to add to that a personal story. My dad was born in this same neighborhood in 1940, graduated from Douglas in 1958. This means that my grandparents had to live there in order for him to be born. I purposely decided to come back to the area, so I live one street away from where my dad was born and where my grandfather had a business on 4th Street. I live there now, purposely. I came back to my roots, not knowing that I wasn't gonna have the quality of life that I had in Moore, Oklahoma. That's where I came from. So my house is only 18 years old. And of course, we're dealing with all of the irresponsibility of the facility because they are not taking care of the cars that are crushed and creating the booms. And by the way, the booms, there's no discrimination. We get small, medium, and large, and we don't get a choice. We get the booms. We don't get a choice of the size. Just a friendly reminder, we are in prime location for our Olympic worldwide guests to stay in our neighborhood. We are 1.3 miles from the canoe slalom in the Boathouse District, 1.5 miles from the Devon Park where the softball will be played in the Adventure District. So I would hate for our guests from around the world to experience these scary nuisance explosions. So I'm asking you to continue to vote no. Let's make our Olympic guests have a great experience. And I'll end with this. This company is not being a responsible neighbor. So please don't reward their irresponsible behavior. Please continue to deny their request for new equipment in their facility. It is time for a change. Please vote people and their property over profit. Thank you.
Thank you. Rodney? And please limit your comments to the appeal issues.
Well, thank you, sweetheart. My wife, she said it all. She did a fine job. And I just want to say, Rodney Redis, JFK, I've been in the neighborhood myself for almost 18 years. And again, I second everything that my wife said, and I ask that you deny the appeal.
Okay. Thank you. And then Kent Doss.
Good afternoon. I'm Reverend Dr. Kent Doss. I'm here from First Unitarian Church and also Voice. that stands for Voices Organized for Civic Engagement. I came here today with a handful of members of my church and other leaders from Voice, if they could raise their hands. We are not all going to take time to speak, but we wanted to be here to show a little bit of support. I brought with me a letter from Voice signed by clergy from several local congregations in support of the JFK Neighborhood Association. I just want to read the names of those churches. That includes my church, First Unitarian Church, Little Flower Catholic Church, Mayflower Congregational UCC, Religious Sisters of Mary, Joy Mennonite Church, Mosaic Community Church UCC, and Episcopal Church of the Redeemer. I had come here to talk about explosions and noise, but I'm going to try to talk about something a little different. Part of this to me is a little bit of historical context. As I was reading into this case, from what I saw or what I heard was city managers and city staff trying to promise these residents for decades, we will do what we can, but our hands are tied. As far as I can tell, this is the moment in which the city's hands are no longer tied to do something to help the residents deal with these recurring explosions in their neighborhoods. The other reason that I wanted to read the name of those congregations, as I was sitting here, I realized how unimaginable it would be to be having this conversations about regular explosions occurring in one of the neighborhoods where those congregations exist. This conversation just would not be happening, or it would be radically different. And as I said, I came here to talk about explosions and noise and residents' rights, but I was refreshed to hear how strong the actual merits of the case are here. I encourage you to follow the wisdom of the city and the decision that it has already rightfully made, and do the right thing. Thanks for your time.
Thank you. Okay. That's all I've got right now. Procedurally, if it's okay with the rest of you, I'll go to David and then back to Jeff and Matt. And I think that will be closing arguments.
Yeah, so I'll just be real quick. The shear is a quiet machine, does not cause explosions. There is nothing about this vote today that has anything to do with noise and explosions. That is the shredder that is still going to be existing for many, 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 many years. This is an in-kind replacement that is squarely within what the Supreme Court in Oklahoma said in the Triangle Fraternity case that is allowed.
Okay. Jeff, Matt, either one of you?
I'll just reiterate, the appellant can continue their current operations. They can pursue the district courthouse, or they can pursue a special permit, which stands to benefit the community. Okay. Those options are present right now.
Comments or questions from the board? I think we're ready for a motion.
I will say in your motion to state the reasons for your motion, your decision.
I'm pretty sure the bylaws say I can't make a motion.
And I've got a question. You guys will have to bear with me a little bit. As the only, I think, only non-attorney weighing in on this. Is there any statutory language that supports the notion that legal non-conforming uses, that the expectation is for them to be discontinued at a certain point?
I can check on that. I know the statute, let me see if I can find it, but it does say that, you know, you can amortize an amount, but it does also say that they can't be enlarged or expanded. That same language is in the statutory provision too, but.
Yeah, going through the code, the language that's here definitely suggests it, but it does not outright expressly state it. But listening to Mr. Butler's comments earlier, particularly in regards to how in some instances amortization is prescribed, but in this one it wasn't, I just want to know if there's, if the expectation is that all legal non-conforming uses, if the goal is that they cease to exist.
I think that's probably more in the case law and treaties and stuff, but the statute, if you want me to just read it to you what it says, but it says, under the lawful non-conforming use of a building or structure or premises as such existed at the time of the adoption and recording of any ordinance affecting it may be continued, although such use does not conform with the provisions of such ordinance. The municipality may provide for the termination of lawful non-conforming uses either by specifying the period or periods with which such use shall be required to cease, or by designating conditions or circumstances which shall cause such to cease, or by providing a formula or formulas whereby compulsory termination of a non-conforming use shall be so fixed as to allow a reasonable period of time for amortization of the investment of the non-conformance. Then it also says, regulations and restrictions affecting the termination of a non-conforming use as authorized by this section may be adopted or amended by the municipality. So I think in ours ordinance, we just say that it cannot be expanded or enlarged. So our ordinance speaks to it.
So I'm correct in assuming that there's nothing that precluded the city of Oklahoma City for establishing an amortization period at the time that they adopted this code?
Right.
So am I correct to presume, and I want to make sure and confirm that I've got the city's point of view, or I guess conclusion, that they made this decision based off of 59-15200 sub B, as well as 59-15250 sub E. Is that correct?
I apologize, I'm going to have to ask you.
No, you're good. I just want to make sure that you guys made this decision based off these two statutes or ordinances here. 59-15200 sub B, which says a non-conforming use shall not be expanded or moved in whole or in part to any other portion of the lot or parcel on which it is located. Is that one? Yes, correct. Okay. As well as 59-15250 subpart E, modernization permitted, improvements or remodeling that do not increase the size or intensity of use shall be permitted.
What was that reference again?
59-15250 subpart E.
Yeah, we didn't feel like you needed to get to that second one.
Okay, so just based off the first one.
Right, that is an alternative argument. And
Okay.
an appeal from this will be de novo before the court and district courthouse as well.
It is worth noting, Mr. Collins stood up here and said modernization is not contemplated or permitted under the ordinance. And of course, we're reading it, it says modernization permitted.
Under the provision you just cited, which was not the provision we were talking about at the point in time.
Emily Kay, any questions?
You've answered my question, but since, let me ask this. It may be a little bit of a dangerous question, but is there, and I'm going to direct it to the city, and you can choose to say, no, you don't want to answer the question, but is there, we've had a graphic that shows the proposed expanded use and the change in size. Is there any scenario that the city would consider that wouldn't be an expansion? I mean, how do you get there? You would have to replace this piece of equipment with the same type of equipment. Is that what is contemplated, or? And I certainly do understand the general objective that a non-conforming use over time is not what is desired. You know, that the objective is to work towards removing the non-conforming use. But in this particular scenario, is there any, possibility that there could be something that wouldn't contemplate a new piece of equipment?
Well, I mean, I can speak to that from a legal perspective.
Please do.
If they want to change the oil in their existing machinery, that might work, but you don't need a special permit to do so. That's the level, but that's not what they're asking for. They're asking for an outright replacement. And from a legal perspective, I would tell you I would be prepared to defend the city's perspective on a replacement period.
Thank you for that response. Okay.
Can I mean, I think it's an absurd conclusion. That's like, if you had a non-conforming residential structure, that, in fact, the last thing I did when I worked for the city attorney's office was try a case in district court on a non-conforming residential structure. That's like saying you couldn't change the HVAC unit because it had gone out. And the old HVAC unit was gas-powered or generator-powered, and the new one is bigger because it's electronic. That's what we're doing here. We're simply replacing a component of the operation. The operation is the scrap operation as defined in the ordinance, which is the premises. This is merely one component of it. So to say that changing the oil is the only thing that would be allowed is absurd. That's like saying you couldn't change the HVAC unit on a non-conforming residential structure because the size of the new unit is bigger than the old one. The reality is they don't make the old, nasty, diesel-generated unit anymore. So we're going with the modern, electric, clean version. That's all we're doing.
Thank you for your comment.
Any other questions or comments from the board?
I'll just share my thoughts. I think that if the unit was being replaced, I don't know that there would be an issue. I think that the way the code reads, it allows for modernization. I think that if it were possible that a unit was manufactured that fit the exact specifications, the dimensions of the existing unit, except it didn't burn diesel, I think there wouldn't be any issue here. The part that I'm struggling with and the reason that I'm inclined to affirm the city's decision is 5915200 bullet B, that a nonconforming use shall not be expanded or moved in whole or in part to any other portion of the lot or parcel, which I believe was the same thing I wrestled with the first time this came. I tend to agree with the appellant that the use is the site. I think we'd be getting down into the weeds, microscopic even, to try to determine where a piece of equipment is placed. But given the understanding that the intention is for legal non-conforming uses to be phased out, and then reading this language that strictly prohibits moving it even to another part of the parcel, I think is sufficient to affirm the city's position. That's just my thoughts. You guys can share what you think.
I guess my question would be to the city is, if the appellant came to the city with a unit that was actually smaller than the current area that they're occupying, but more efficient, is that still in violation?
Again, so it's a couple things. It's the size, but it's also the intensity, which equates, as I mentioned before, the expansion of the capability of the machinery to produce more. That, to me, is an expansion of the use. So it's the two things. So if they were to come, again, I think as was said, if they were to come with a machine that was similar in size, or the same in size, or even smaller, then that would eliminate that factor. If they were to come with something that produce the same amount, or if they were to require come for a special permit, which the city could then use to place limitations on any number of things, such as where they operate on the site, or how much they can produce, et cetera, et cetera. Any number of things can be accommodated and controlled under a special permit environment.
Any other questions, comments?
No? Then I'll make a motion to make a motion in case number 16159 to deny the appeal and affirm the city's decision that the proposed use violates 59-152200 subpart B and is considered an expansion of the current use.
Got a second?
I'll second that.
Okay, we have a
Clarification on the citation to the ordinance on that, please. Did you say 59-15200.1B?
No, yes, point 1B. Yes, thank you for that.
Thank you.
I'll still second that.
Okay, we got a motion and a second to deny the appeal. Cast your votes. Appeal denied. All right.
Okay, case number 9 was continued to March 5th, so we're at the end of our docket.
Okay. I don't have any additional items. We don't have any board committees. Does anybody want to say anything? Susan? No. Nope. Citizens to be heard. Nobody signed up for that. I don't have any other business. We're adjourned.